Good afternoon to everyone. Let's start again. My name is Pierre, Compère, and I'm a consultant towards institutes and companies who want to evolve in that field. I'm going to say in English just for 1 minute. So you heard it's all going to be in French, so you can have headsets to hear the English translation. Controversy. Maybe it's a bit shocking when you're in a fair dedicated to agricultural robotics. So for people exposing their work of agricultural robotics, we can hear and observe that in France, in Europe, we have very strong farming movements. People are angry, and farmers are really seeking for recognition, social recognition and economic recognition when you have climatic changes as well, and the effects can be really seen very strongly, and we can see the transition is very strong as well. We can see many difficulties for manpower as well, in France as well, problems with their generation being renewed, also ruling and regulations issues. Therefore, we have these recognition issues. There we can ask about the point of and the limits of agricultural robotics. We can speak about producers. Some of them are really keen and others are really dubious. So we're going to have open discussion with you. So we're going to have 3 times. So for this conference, and every time we're going to exchange with the room, and I'm going to pick out somebody in the room. I'm speaking about students over there, and I'm counting on you to really ask questions to speakers. 3 steps. First of all, we're going to speak about the integration between farming robotics to different models, agronomic and economic models. Is the farming robotics, is it adapted to all systems of production? Then secondly, does it create new dependencies, or does it reinforce the autonomy of farmers who have these robotic systems? So does it take? Third step, what is the future for the agricultural robotics? That'll be more sober in terms of energy. So we are going to ask a first speaker, Jean-Baptiste Keruzec, who has a farm in the Tarn area. Jean-Baptiste Keruzec, please stand up with me. I'm going to, you're a breeder in the Tarn, and you also work in the CUMA movement. What is a CUMA? Because we have foreign people here. They don't know what CUMA is. What kind of organization is it? CUMA, it's a small cooperative that is often organized locally with 1 or many villages. And in this cooperative, we buy material together and we manage this material in common. So cooperative of usage of material in common. So you work together, you share material, and you share also sometimes employees to work to be able to share the cost. So you're a member of your CUMA, and you're passionate about machines and agricultural robotics. Not really, actually. If I belong to this network, CUMA network, it's really for human life, for relationship between people and groups, and for the potential of innovation that we all have together, more than for the material side of it. That is really the hardware side. That is really just it is an excuse to work together. So it is a sport to develop friendship and exchange of knowledge. You're a breeder. So what is your vision on robotics? We're talking about, of course, milking robots. What is your vision? I don't really have a vision, but I would say that my farm, I'm actually it's a milking farm in organic agriculture. I have 40 milking cows with 120 hectares. I'm 100% autonomous. For me, robotics doesn't really match my needs. So we'll speak about it again. Is agricultural robotics and milking robots, are they adapted to all systems of production? And maybe we can imagine that for other breeding farms. Now, Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc Picourlat is going to come and join us. Please give him a big round of applause. Mike for you. Jean-Luc, as I said, you're a farmer in the Landes area, the west of France. You're not just a farmer, you're also a designer of a robot. You have developed your own robot via a company that you founded. It's called SOFTIROB. So what led you to design your own robot for yourself and other? Yes, I am in the Pyrénées-Atlantique. I'm nearer the land, but I'm not from the land. I'm from Pyrénées-Atlantique. Yes, let's put the church back into the center of the village. Absolutely. Precision in agriculture is important, and geolocalization is also very important. So it's Pyrénées-Atlantique and Béarn region. But of course, I'm happy to say hello to the land people. So what led me to designing my own robot? Well, I was born in a farm. I was born really with the earth. From my parents, my grandparents were also farmers, and I am a son of the earth, as we can all be. But I am passionate about new technology since I was born, really. So it is, I thought, why not a robot? But then, really, when you say robot, the name is really, you start being frightened. I had milking robots. People say, oh, that's what a robot is. They thought it'd be like a little bit of a real robot that would come and milk the cows. So they were very disappointed. They thought it'd be a transformer or something. It was just a bit of iron. It was not a humanoid robot. Of course, it is a tool. For me, a robot is a tool. Just like any tool would have been when the first farmer started working. So it is a tool. So we don't go back to your case because you had a milking robot, but you don't have it, you don't use it anymore because it wasn't really a big success story for you. But having said that, you still design another robot. Last year, I was saying that I really, with 2 milking robots, I got injured in 2000, and then for 10 years it was very difficult with those 2 very robots that were very. It wasn't a very good experience, but then with my partners, we worked together. Those 10 years, we paid off our loan, and we got away from this difficult time. We don't even have cows now. Having said that, in France, we don't have that many cows anymore. So congratulations to those who are still fighting and are there, and they have all my respect. But you were not disappointed. No, I wasn't. But when you feel from a horse or from a bike, you need to go back immediately. So anyway, thank you very much. Now Flavien Roussel, who is going to join us. You work for Naïo Technologies. Flavien, you are in charge of communication and marketing for production of content, for marketing side of the heart of this company that was leader for agricultural robotics. Well, what is the maturity today of the product of Naïo and agricultural robotics in general? I've been working with conference at FIRA. We speak about emergence, starting up, etc. So it is operational now, completely functional. Yes, hello to everyone. I would say that absolutely. We have hundreds of robots, of field robots that are working and operating as we speak. It means that in about 10 years' time, we have really had huge advances, huge progress were made. And if we look at how many tractors you have in the world and maturity of this market, or number of sales of the annual sales figures for tractors or whatever other machinery, we still have lots of time to cover different needs on the farms at the scale of the planet. So we're not speak about milking robots because they are very natural, very known, and very deployed in France and other places. But for the field robots, as you say, I forgot my question. I said that the offer was really growing, but on this particular area for regulations and rules, is everything okay? And do you have a real autonomy for those machines, or are we still talking about robotics that isn't really completely autonomous and cannot replace a man? Well, we're not going to replace man by machines, but even the most advanced robots who are really autonomous can ensure their own safety and the safety of goods and people around them. If they don't have anyone to give the right parameters and to design them and to supervise them, it's never going to be an efficient, good robot. Never. Now, the question by this complete autonomy, it's going to be decided at Naïo. We worked very hard and we have progressed a lot on these subjects where we have robots now that can work without any surveillance in the field, without being supervised, and they are really abiding by the rules and regulations. So there are many standards for roads and other standards, and to have certain cars on the road autonomously. There's still lots of work to be done, but you have rules, regulations, and a framework. Thank you very much for this introduction. Then for the fourth speaker now, Frédéric Robert, who works at the platform LIA. Frédéric and platform LIA, it's here. We're almost at home. Link Innovation Agroecology. It's a platform for supporting and recognizing educational resources for also engineering schools and also higher secondary schools. So it's agroecology environment and the place of agriculture in territories. You work with lots of young people, not just all the populations you're in contact with. What are their visions on agricultural robotics? It's not a platform anymore. It's a grouping for public interest. So we can see now people everywhere. I'm going to say it depends. It depends in education system. Robotics topics are not really integrated. It depends of what really subjects for learning. They are socially very important questions. You can be against or for robotics. It's more societal. I think it's a real debate around those topics, and also in a context that is very difficult and specific today in the farming world. What are the assets? And it depends of flour production or BTS. Well, really the challenge of robotics is more debated than if you do production big crops, where the whole point hasn't been shown yet. So it depends of situation for engineering schools. It depends, you know, that engineering schools have freedom with their diploma. So it depends of the feeling, the projects that they want to highlight. You can have different visions, and it's not a main concern. It's not really the main concern when you are for the farming world. I thought very naively that young people would be very interested by new technologies and by robots. And I remember last year, on this very stage, I got a complete flop conference when I thought I could ask students for agronomic schools or higher secondary school. I think you have to also separate IT from robotics. Everything that is collaborative, tools to help conducting, to help driving, they are easy to integrate, whilst robotics is more linked to equipment, to hardware, and it's not. You don't do robotics. I'm asking students here, says the speaker, but they can still be curious. Okay, please sit down. We're going to start after this small introduction. First topic is agricultural robotics. Is it adapted to all economic models? I know that CUMA, those cooperative for villages, they have also already tested these solutions. And what are the integration costs that one has to forecast? I'm not asking you necessarily figures, but there's an investment, and then but not just when we welcome a robot in one's farm, and then you will ask, and then we speak about also what about the cost, and we'll speak about retirement also later. What are the costs? Well, I don't have enough hindsight for robots. We have had demonstration rather for big crops or wine farming, and we have a problem, a technical problem with the demo for wine farming, and we had lots of wine growers. I think we're 120 people, but there is no network, so the robot could not move. So that was a shame. People thought, well, it doesn't work now. And I think that we're talking about wine growing, of course. So, of course, we're facing a technical issue. What about this experience of demo? What happened? Well, I was working as a journalist on that event, and unfortunately, the robot needed 4G connection. I thought to ensure its positioning. It was a Naïo, but it had this problem. So we found ourselves in a situation where the robot was dependent of a telecommunication coverage, and it's not that easy on the whole planet. You have continents where it could be extremely complicated. So that really put the question of if you don't have the right coverage. When we speak about progress, but ask the farming world, when you speak about the pack with the dematerialized access and with the internet side, they say, I don't have enough energy and really flow to ensure this access to this. So you have zones where you don't have any coverage. White zone, so to speak, and then you find yourself with a lack of means. So, without adding salt onto the wound, and I know that for milking robots it wasn't easy for you. Did you anticipate all the changes and all the costs? Please, let's create. I don't know. I want to speak about, to react. We speak about a robot with a CUMA of the town. We have a problem in 2023, maybe it was 2022, for the network coverage. Let's speak and let's project ourselves in 2000 and I don't know when. And then we'll have coverage network everywhere because we have 10G, but we can't have good trials at the CUMA of the town because with real tractors, vintage tractors, because they are still using diesel, because you cannot find diesel in 2000 and something. So it won't be a problem of network coverage, it's a problem of coverage of fuel, or if we all were running on electrics. Well, what you're saying is that it's not necessarily the right issue on this 4G question, but I'm talking about the cost of integration of a robot. For the milking robot, we were working with 3 partners because we understood earlier that to make a living out of this, I just got married at that time with a family life and etc. So I went into partnership with 2 other colleagues, with 3 other colleagues, actually. And the idea was to have volume, to have a weight for milking a factory, because we thought that to earn more, we need to have more volume. So we applied this before we heard it later on TV. So our main concern was really the milking room. And we would spend 3.5 hours in the morning, 3.5 hours in the evening. So when you come out of those 3.5 hours of milking, you need to have time to have lunch, for example, and have a break. And then you needed to go back to the milking work. Yes, because it is quite constraining. Twice a day. Of course, we loved breeding. The technical side of it was great for me. And then went to Spas in Rennes to see how we could improve our building. And we saw that there is a big truck, and Dutch people were starting to present the Levy robot. I didn't see when Jesus got there. It was exactly like that. It was the same feeling. There's this guy. It was Messiah. So there's this guy he was presenting his milking Lely robot, and there's all these farmers around, gathering around. But there is a real controversy that say, well, but wait, I want to see it. Well, see, you got it wrong. There were plastic. And they were simulating the cow's anatomy. So there's also the controversy, and we were like saying, "Oh God, that's what we need." It was actually trying to simulate the nipple of the cow, and we thought, yeah, okay, I would like to see it with a real cow. He said, well, if you like, at 7 o'clock, come on, let's go to Mr. and Mrs. Liberge, the first milking robot. So the end of the story, that's what we needed. And then 5 years later, but it didn't work. It wasn't adapted to you, was it? Just so that to understand what didn't it work in your farm. What should you anticipate to integrate a milking robot in your farm? Why? And you loved robots. We integrated not at the right time, because you need to catch a train when it's stopping at the platform. Not too early and not too late. It's too late. And then here we wanted it, we got it, we needed a solution. But the first guy who had that, and they said, okay, we had the money. Also, so what was the problem? What is the performance with the of the robot to your farming system? No, I think the technical adequation, the match was there, but it wasn't adapted to its milking work. To be clear, the cow was coming. She was the nipple was being washed, and the oxytocin was she wanted to give her its milk, and it couldn't find the nipples. So those technical solutions were settled, but as a breeder, you milk farm and a farmer, and of course you don't say, okay, great, I'll go for it because it can help my constraint of milking twice a day. Because first of all, I'm not thinking that I need to produce more. I would like to produce less and to have a better life. So I'm fighting with 35 milking cows, because we're working with cows. We're working with my wife, the GAEC structure. So financially, we can't afford it. I'll do also pasture. So every day they come out on a plot of about 50 hectares. So I have more small plot is accessible to cows. So it's very difficult. It takes a long time to take them out and to go and get them. So it doesn't match what we want. And for milking, I have a very old milking room from the 80s. Also, pulsators are electronics. The rest is all manual, but it's 40 minutes to milk the cows mornings and evenings. And if I was working in partnership with somebody else than my own wife, maybe we could alternate the milking time. But it's not necessarily a wish for us not to milk anymore, because it is a specific time, special time. It is this time when we look at the animals. When I was working, I got my training on milking robots. It's not the same work. You need to alternate surveillance, observation of the cows and doing the milk. It's a constraint that you have chosen, and you organize your working time around this time constraint, but you control it. Is that it? Yes. We talk about rotating pasturing. The milking robot, is it adapted to this type of system, or are we more in maize? Well, it's less production, so it's going to answer to economic strategy. So we see lots of. So we see those robots, and you don't see the cows coming out. And how do you manage the flow between plots that you have inside and outside? Because then the robot, it's really strong on that, because the milking can happen when the cow is ready. So it took you time to have observations for to observe the cows. Yeah, my neighbor was saying, I like looking at the time, because with the robot, the good point is that you had to be there all the time, night and day, to assist the robot, because it was a real disaster. But since things got better. Yes, for a milking robot, when you look at strategies, you can have a transformation, adding value of the milk. With a different value, you can gain time also to work on a workshop that needs more manpower, that makes you earn money as well. And all this is very important. Also, you have a reverse situation where you have system where you have robots, where you have different thresholds. We don't have quotas anymore, but you come out of the robot to go back to rotating system. So because in execution operating, because if you have more than it's like a rotating ride, a roundabout system. So robots is for big farms, yes? And when you go beyond a certain threshold, it's not adapted anymore. That's why they're hybrid systems. We spoke a lot. I think it depends if the project is not well managed to start with, it's never going to work. But if you think upstream about a strategy, then it's where really it's more adapted. You have more reliability also for your robot system. So you don't save a herd just with the robot. And then the situation we're facing now, it's difficult. Flavien, speak about animal. Naïo, they do more field robots, as you said, but the robot can integrate itself in a precision agricultural focus. We have to optimize an existing system. But we speak a lot, and it is really in the law, for the ecology law, to give the right focus for productive objectives, for longer rotation, association of crops. Can the robot manage this complexity? Yes, the robot can give solutions, not all of them, to answer the challenges of agroecology. Agroecology is also putting more living and more diversity, because you get away from a standardized model, even for if you start putting vegetable covers in all the vines that are really high, it's possible that they're going to have a problem with the safety rules for robots. For example, you can have a robot which has a sensitive, a little cushion, and then you have a vegetation that has grown so much and that we couldn't get rid of it, then the robot is going to get into collusion. Then say the robot is not compatible with agroecology. No, that is not the question. The question is if someone deals with the cover, then the robot can do the whole season of mechanical weeding. You need to adapt yourself. You need to say the robot is a tool that can integrate itself and help on certain tasks, free time, and then cover certain tasks that we didn't think about. For example, is a tractor driver, is he going to do really weeding at really one very, very slow pressure where the weeds are there? Are they going to do 1 kilometer per hour during the whole day? Nobody will do that. But if a robot, if you tell it you can do it for 1 kilometer per hour, because the robot is not going to complain, is it? And then you put it back in the other plot, it's not going to. I'm not saying the workers are always moaning. That is not the question. But this free time will allow people who love their work to work on other tasks that have added value, where they are going to really, where their trade is going to be really valued.
Well,
Jean-Baptiste, what do you think about those statements? I know that you're a farmer. You also have a head of cows. Are you thinking of freeing up time with robots, or are you? So, what do you think in line with his statement? Well, I'm not sure. It's a mix of different things. My approach is the following. I'm not trying to find more profitability. This is not the way I live. Well, I suppose that you want more margin than more turnover, to phrase things differently. Yes, that's right. And also, I want to be more respectful of biodiversity. And also, I want to enjoy doing my work. When I arrived this morning on location, I had a look at those robots. And, you know, I'm 50. I built my farm on work, on doing things by myself. But this is very personal. This is my very personal situation. I don't have that mindset of having things done for me. Yeah, and you do not need to make excuses. You were invited to this roundtable just to exemplify that robots is not a given for all farmers. We're all different. So this first session, or this first question, had to do with adequation or lack of adequation of robots with the different business models. I see that the lady in the front has a question. Can you please introduce yourself? My name is Alex Teixeira. I come from Portugal. I'm the coordinator of a skills center to try and fight against desertification. I'm here because I work with a team, a university-based team, and we also work on robots. My question, most of you are farmers, if I understood properly. At least 2 of you are farmers, and 2 of you work in the agricultural field. For me, being a farmer is a very noble job, but it's a job, so you need to make money. And also, you have a responsibility in that you need to preserve your ecosystem. So that's the first statement. As far as you're concerned, and, you know, if if we were to put ourselves in your shoes, if we were in your shoes as farmers, when you think about your main concern and you're concerned about the environment, what is a pain point for you of the different things that exist currently? Do you have a pain point that you would like a robot to do for you? I'm going to give you an example. As a water consumer, every time I flush my toilets, it's a pain point for me as a general user. So I think it's a waste of water. And so I wanted to know, as a farmer, do you have something like that where you go, oh, if a robot could do that for me, that'd be great. Okay, so I'm going to rephrase. So if the robot was a magic wand, you have a problem related to the environment with that type of issue. What could a robot do for you? Well, I'm going to pick up on something that Flavien said before. We started with a milking robot, and then we also used a robot to help us in our farm. I have a larger farm near Pau. We mostly do corn, soy, but also legumes. And so we started with a milking robot for our cows, but also another robot for the crops. Because we are really looking towards the future and going forward, we'd like to be able to use more robots. Last year, we used a robot on a field of 5 hectares. And same as we applied a robot for our cows, we had to be in the field day in, day out on a daily basis to check on the robot. So implementing a robot for the first time doesn't mean that you're going to save time, especially at the start. And I realized that you need to change the way you work. Sometimes it's better to keep a large tree in the corner of your field so as to be in the shade when you have to head your robot. So it's always a better idea to keep a tree rather than fell the tree. And so I thought, well, maybe that's a step backwards when you need to spend so much time in the field. And I had a conversation with fellow farmers. They would stop and they would ask me tons of questions. Well, that robot, well, I love being on my tractor. I like waving to the motorists. And this is what I love in my work. And what I usually tell them, well, you better go to an amusement park if you want to ride a car, on your tractor. You are hurting your back. You are inhaling chemicals. Okay, so what I'm hearing here is you use robots not so much to improve your work comfort, right? That's right. So we demonstrated our robot with in vineyards. And the questions that we had from winemakers were the following. They said, well, we need that robot. We work at 2 kilometers per hour. It's impossible to find a driver because they hate it to drive their tractor at 2 kilometers per hour. They just have this large row, and while they're bored, so they just text a message while the tractor is running very slowly, but then they lose attention and they make a mistake. So we have a hard time finding the right serious driver. So again, the different reactions were very different from crop farmers to vineyards or winemakers. So that has to do with work quality. Well, again, you're comparing two different things. I think that farmers have an impact on our environment. We have an impact. Well, personally, I'm a farmer, and it's impossible for me to envisage not being in the field when it's harvest time. And we're all different, but I think that harvest time is really a strategic moment. What we are going to delegate to a robot are all tasks that are labor intensive. For example, weeding in the vineyard, or spraying any chemicals or products in carrots, crops. So this is for me the interest of robots, trying to remove those very labor-intensive tasks, or when you need to access rather difficult areas. Again, mechanical reading really depends on a farmer's profile and on the farm profile. But I think the higher the constraints, the more interest there is in robots. Also, a task that has not much added value. I think this is the right, implementation of robots. So we agree on that. When a task is labor intensive, when a task is painful, or is there something that you'd like to, what would be your magic wand? Well, I would love to have a robot that would keep the spraying machine of my neighbors away from my own crops. Well, joke aside, my day one day is very different to the next. I'm not doing the same sort of tasks on a daily basis, and this is what I love in my job. And for that reason, I do not have high expectations for a robot to replace me. Either I want a robot who's going to completely replace me so that I can take a vacation, a holiday, take care or spend time with my children, also participate to all the meetings I would like to go to. So either the robot is able to completely replace me. I'm interested in collaborative innovation, and so I would love a robot to free up time for me so that I have more time to do other things. Flavien, maybe you want to give your take on this, and this is going to segue very nicely with the next topic, freedom or independency that you can get from a robot. Yeah, I just wanted to answer the lady's question, how we can remove some pain points with robots. I think the main challenge is really to understand. We need to take into consideration how young farmers on the planet, the type of life they want, the type of lifestyle they want. This year in France, we unfortunately had to sow in very difficult conditions because we've had heavy rains. And maybe in those difficult situations, robots would be a very good help because they are lighter and therefore they're not compacting the soil as much as a tractor would. So maybe a robot could be a helping hand when we need to comply with regulations because we have to sow within a very specific time frame. And so potentially it would help. It would also help potentially to make shorter working hours and to remove a bit of or burden. On milking robots, I have a number of testimonials from farmers that are fed up receiving alarms from those milking robots. And they say that it is a constant mental burden or a mental load because the machine is going off, alarms are going off all the time. So is it something that is potentially a pain? Well, you know, milking robots, the objective of robots was to really relieve some of our work burden. But I'm under the impression that it's true that we maybe have a less physically demanding job, but we have a very high mental load, and we have a hard time having a good rest at night. And I think this goes hand in hand with all this technology. However, I know colleagues of mine, they wanted to remove the physical stress, but they have increased that mental stress. So much so that after they purchased a robot, they felt better. They didn't feel better, but just worse from a mental point of view, psychological point of view. Again, the idea is not so much to increase your mental workload. Is potentially you manufacture, you design robots. You want to have a robot that is robust with as little downtime as possible. Well, I fully concur with what my colleague just said on mental load. It's true that the milking robot sometimes is a pain. And, maybe I like it because I still have a milking robot. And maybe I need to go to a psychologist or to a shrink because maybe I like pain. I don't know, because I love those robots. This is very interesting. What I'm trying to say, as far as I'm concerned, a robot, you call it the name you want. It's a tool. In the same line as a pen is a tool, a hoover is a tool in the house. It's nothing but a tool. It's no more, no less. It's not something for increased production. I concur with Jean-Baptiste. I have the same philosophy. I would love it that if we had more farmers in the first place, more farmers with smaller farms. We'd have well, that'd be very nice because I'd had more clients to sell my robots to, first and foremost. But again, a robot shouldn't be seen as an enemy. It's a tool. And also, I think it's a very important tool for those very physically demanding tools, for those tools that are boring. And there are tasks that I do not want to delegate to robots. There are some tasks that I like to do myself. On the question of mental load, is it something that you looked into in your platform? Well, there's a question of mental load, there's a question of pressure on price loans that we have to take on. The cost of this equipment is very high. There are different business models. Sometimes we rent those devices, but of course there's an impact on mental load and on the responsibility and the pressure we feel. So we need to have an added value. If there's no added value, it's not worth the extra stress. Do you have clients providing feedback on their increased mental load after they purchased a robot? Do they feedback their increased stress after they had to pay for such a robot? Well, those robots that we developed for vegetable crops. Those are robots on which we have quite a long hindsight. They've been on the market for 10 years. Most of our clients say, well, today this type of robot is about 30,000 euros. Do not forget that there are subsidies and that you can receive subsidies from the different bodies. But in any case, our clients say, well, after 2 seasons, we have a good return on investment. Because they explain, well, I had a hard time in the past to hire an employee. The cost of an employee is such and such. In a matter of 2 years, the savings on employees, on workforce, equates the amount that I had to invest in my robot. So what you're telling me is that you're replacing labor. Well, actually, what they say is that they've posted a job, a vacancy, and they couldn't find an employee in the first place. And so every time I go and visit a prospect, I try to understand their needs. And most of our clients say, well, a robot is not only something that has to do with costs. Well, actually, farmers, what they try to take into consideration is also the value of saved time. A farmer will tell you, well, I estimate my working hours at 9 hours per hour. My work is worth 9 euros per hour or 20 euro per hour. Well, actually, a robot is worthwhile if a farmer estimates his or her working time at 40 euros per hour. So any hour saved, of course, is definitely a plus. Time watering, time spent in the greenhouse. And also what I keep hearing from my clients, we have farmers, what they say is, with robots, there are things that I can do that I would not have been able to do manually. For example, I have carrot plants in my greenhouse. Manually, it's not possible for me to include radish plants in between each row. Now, with a robot, because they're very light, because they're very accurate, they are able to intersperse a row of radishes in between 2 rows of carrots. And it means that they can sell carrots and that can sell radishes and they can have a better use of their land. Yes, I hear that with a robot which costs about 30,000 euros. And I'm sure that it's a great product. But for more expensive robots, which cost, for example, 200,000 euros, can we still apply the same rationale? Well, in Charente, of course, we have a number of clients in the winemaking industry. For example, they manufacture brandy or cognac. And what they tell us is, the robot is doing tasks that our employees cannot do, or for which we cannot find the right employees. So what they say is that their employees are happier because they do less labor-intensive tasks. They just have to herd the robot, for example. So they have a tablet, for example, in their hands instead of sitting in the driver's seat for 8 hours. So they say that having this type of robot or equipment increases satisfaction on the job and the purchase that type of equipment because there's an added value. And when they have this added value, they're ready to invest. Also, the robot is, again, does a task which comes with a lot of constraints. Jean-Baptiste, you said that in your farm you have a variety of tasks and you do not see your job as a boring succession of tasks. And I suppose that in a way you are different from the employees you are talking about. It's true that a farmer weeding a carrot carrot plants for 8 hours in a row may find that job very cumbersome, but you don't do that, do you? Well, again, it has to do with the level of performance that you want to achieve. And I suppose that many of my fellow farmers agree with that. We had many protests lately in France with a number of fellow farmers complaining that they have to work more to hardly make a living. And so we try to push our limits to the max, but it's true that equipment has become 30% more expensive in the last 3 years. So I'm under the impression that, maybe in the last decade or maybe in the last 20 or last 30 years, equipment is more expensive, but I don't think it translates directly in an increased well-being of my fellow farmer. Hence my questions. We had a question on skills and strengthening skills. Are you under the impression, do you think that Okay, you have a double question at the same time. It's true that when you have a robot, you need to strengthen your skills in a number of other areas. Again, different business models. When you have vegetable crops, you need, of course, you decide your selling price. And because you can decide your selling price, then maybe you have more room for maneuver on whether you can purchase a robot or not. But there are some crops that have more added value than others. Now, on your question, for winemakers in the vineyard, of course, they need to increase their skill sets on yield, on technicity. So it's true that you need to strengthen your skill set. There's a learning curve, but on the plus side, you're going to have less labor, you're going to have less employees. So again, this needs to be factored in whether you're going to purchase or not a robot. So in the new generation, it's difficult to find experts. And I will agree with my colleague here to my left. You love your job because there's a lot of variety in your job. And so, of course, it's also a different job if you need to manage larger teams or whether you herd robots. And I'm sure that the new generation of farmers will have those questions to contend with. Now, I'd love to hear from the public on those questions of return on investment, dependency between machines and robots. My name is Marine Boyer. I'm a breeder in the Aveyron region. I'm also a member of a CUMA, so this sort of cooperative. Well, today, one of the main topics in our industry is the change in generations and the different expectations of the new generation of farmers. I would like to pick up on what Mr. Picourlat said. Maybe in 10 years, I don't know whether we will still have fuel, but maybe in 10 years, maybe there will be no farmers left. So I wanted to ask the panel, AI is very fashionable. We hear about AI all the time. And so I wanted to know whether in your robots research, do you take into consideration the different options from AI? Will AI replace an employee? And I know I'm a bit provocative here, but will AI eventually replace an employee, or is it going to help farmers make a better living? Fabien, what would you say? So at Naïo, do you use a lot of embarked or embedded AI? Answer, no. This is not a current topic in our current robots. Most robots, they are tool-carrying devices. So what we do is really bringing tools in the right location and being able to be as independent as possible. So the objective, this type of device doesn't really need much AI. AI in our industry has many advantages. And I suppose that it can be a source of progress because, for example, it's going to help identify one type of weed. Once a model is well trained, you can do some spot spraying. You're going to spray on the right weed. You also have laser supported weeds. So when you're sure that it's a weed, you can spray and therefore use less chemicals. We can also spray one specific type of hormone on a very specific type of plant. And AI can help you to be 100% sure that you're going to bring the right product or phytosanitary product on the right plant. So AI can help. So it's going to help you optimize your treatments. So AI has many advantages in the setup of your tool. Then, of course, it does segue very nicely with technical dependency. It's true that if you do not have the right skill set on the farm, you're not going to be able to maintain the robot yourself. But same applies with your household equipment. When your washing machine goes faulty, you need someone to help you repair it, right? Well, I'm a bit concerned with AI. You know that 10% of French farms belong to investment funds, and there are about the same models in other countries. Now, AI and data belong to large companies, belong to companies that are larger than us, and I'm very concerned with data being used by other entities. And I think, this is, fast forward many years in the future. But again, there are many dependencies and interdependencies. There are many models, and I do not want data to be collected on our farms and being used elsewhere. Jean-Luc, what do you think? So if you delegate tasks to a robot, does it mean that this robot has new tasks and maybe 2 generations down the line, all farms will be manned by robots and no longer by farmers? Well, I don't think so. Just to pick up on the AI question, in my company, what we say is that in our robots there's 0 AI, but 100% on human intelligence. Artificial intelligence is again a tool. All robots are manufactured by natural intelligence, what we call NI, natural intelligence, and not artificial intelligence. With brain power. And my objective and the objective at my company, I say that in my introduction, I'm the son of farmers. I'm a child of the earth. My son is still at home today, is in the farm today. Why is he in the farm? Well, he studied communication and IT, and I didn't want him to become a farmer, and he started a completely different type of studies. I didn't want to impose that on him. That type of job needs to be appealing and more glamorous. And I don't think that robots or big tractors are going to make such a job more attractive or more glamorous. This has to do with the economic context. We are faced with many challenges in the eastern part of Europe. We also are faced with tons of problems with climate change, and robots are not going to change this situation. So we need to do something to make that job more attractive. And I don't think that it has to do with a matter of will, wanting to be a farmer or not wanting to become a farmer. I realized that last year when I met young farmers from Pennsylvania. There was a young farmer, a lady. She came from Russia, and she wanted to become a farmer in the United States, and she was interested in robots. And what she told me, well, maybe the future will be future of farming will come with robots. That was the answer of that young lady last year. So we were talking about skill sets. How do you perceive the notion of a learning curve and needing to strengthen your skill sets around robots and techniques? Well, of course, you need more skills and you need the right framework. As my colleague said, a robot is nothing but a tool, and it really depends on your business model. Now, of course, if there's the proper alignment between your own model and the business model with robots, well, then that's fine. After the COVID crisis, many of my fellow farmers were faced with many questions. And what was the deep meaning of a job? I love my job because it brings meaning to my life. And I hope that going forward we'll have more farmers, because it has to do with the meaning of life and the meaning and the purpose in their job. Now, those are deep-reaching questions, and we do not want to see that job as a job of only constraints and being submissive.
Yes, we are a company which is very focused on the hair soil, and we spoke a lot about productivity and tasks, but we don't speak about in a big southwest with a problem of drought. So, do you have? I have a question for you. Working the land, how do you think you can solve problems like lack of water, optimization of irrigation systems? Jean-Luc, do you want to answer? Jean-Baptiste. It is a very good question. I come from a farm that has lots of water, and it's got humidity in the soil, and we can work in dry land without irrigation. It is a great asset, and I need to keep that for generations to come. The robot cannot help me on that, but it is a machine that is light, 1.5 ton. It is a tractor of the 60s in weight. When I designed it, I tried to imagine the tractor that my father was using, a D22 from Renault France in 1960. And it was the same maize, the same, it covered the same distance, and I was very happy. And I rediscovered this when we put in culture this plot of 5 hectares in 2023. We had 230 visits on the plot the day we launched. It was new rural people. There were coming guys were coming to see how it worked and how it was, and farmers were there. We were all working in their fields, and they all were enjoying the sun, and they were working the tractors, and new rurals came. It was not something very rare, but as a renewal of agriculture. Another example, we didn't use it to do the weeding of maize. We treated them in traditional methods with spraying. That's how we did it. And also with a robot, because the idea was to really manage the plot with a robot. So we had a sprayer where every spray gave the right doses at the right time, etc. So it was still spraying. And then the ramp is 6 meters wide, 36 meters in width. And then I was very surprised because we're under the oak watching the road. We didn't have any vapors from the products. We had no rain, and people were watching, and they were filming us and saying okay with thumbs up. And when I went with the sprayer, I could feel that people who were not happy with us, because they were not happy with us spraying. On this aspect of optimization of practices and soil protection. For Flavien, maybe. I was working since 2021 in conservation agriculture. I think that conservation agriculture is wonderful, not just because it's really I'm convinced about it, but I think it's really in our interest. I think that our futures, they're not just robots in life. It's the way you work, the way you want to convey for tomorrow, and what you want for tomorrow. Robot was built and designed to work in conservation agriculture for me. The big asset for robots, this is a generality. We have robots that are 2 tons, that weight 2 tons, and they are embedding, they have on board enough energy so that we don't make it heavier, because battery needs to be displaced as well. It's not just like fuel where the energy index is not the same. There's a very big interview on that with Sarah Singlar-Roussel. She's a specialist for conservation of soils in Uveso in Aveyron. It's not a simple place in terms of climate. And she explains very well that she sees the future where, in order to give water back you need green, and to do green you have to have vegetable covers, you have crops, but also the farmer will be more performing in terms of water resource if he's working or she's working, calculating his crop rotation. And she says that you'll have robots that will carry on certain tasks, whilst the farmer will come back to the soil and will increase the quality of the soil. And it's a useful reserve, because you have a soil that will be in better health. And the robots, if you don't have to deploy a big iron mass of 15 or 20 tons in the field thanks to the robot, then maybe also will gain on the soil health. Then it's a practice, how do I insert the robots in a rotation crop system? And for respect of soil and health of soil health, there's something to be gained. You have big machines on big widths because people need them too. Then if you sell them, it's because people are happy to buy them. But the real question is, what is the chicken and what is the egg? Who put the egg? Jean-Baptiste. Yes, I wanted to answer your question, because maybe we would have to have higher skills. Rather than robotics, we need higher competencies in agronomy. We should be the first agronomist, and we're not the best, and we're not better than others in terms of agronomy. And I think that robot could help us to free us time so that we could think about agronomy. I think as a farmer, but also collectively, we need to think there's a real work to carry on collectively. Hello. My name is, I'm a journalist at Humanité newspaper, and I have a question. Flavien, Roussel, you spoke about robot like a miracle solution somehow, and I'm quoting you. You said robots are not going to moan about weeding, or they're not going to moan about redoing the same plot same day. Okay, great. Then you said, well, of course, it's not opposing a manpower, but that if we go really, we understand that manpower is not happy, so we put robots to... Can you please explain? I didn't understand. And what I am interpreting is not right. No, that's why I corrected myself, because that's not really what I meant by moaning. I'm not saying that manpower is moaning. What I'm saying is that when you're employing somebody, if you want to add value and give good working conditions to your employees, it's very important for future generations. Therefore, if an employer says, okay, let's in team, we're going to introduce a robot that is going to be your daily assistant and will avoid you to spend 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon on your knees doing hand weeding, I think it's something very that adds value and gives confidence to the rest of the team. I don't see the point of an employer to have of an employee to have repetitive, mundane tasks and at very low speed, as I was saying, to start weeding a wheat at early stage is very important, because then you have the bad weeds. Then if you weed a cereal at a very slow speed, it is unacceptable on a tractor. No one will want to do it 1 kilometer per hour. No one will do that, as no one will want to go on the motorway at 10 kilometers per hour. It is the same. My idea, what I want to convey, is that robots are here to help us. And robots, as we said, it is a tool. A washing machine, nobody is against it. A vacuum cleaner, everyone uses them. The same for swimming pool, for robots. People find it difficult. Say we're going to put robots in agriculture. They find it difficult. As I was a farming journalist for 7 years, and I know that I've been everywhere in Belgium, Germany, etc. When I spoke to farmers, the main factor that made the work very hard was really how hard it was, because it is very hard work to be a farmer. And Robert doesn't know about hard work. A robot can do can accomplish tasks that a farmer would never do because they can't see them. What I mean is to weed when you don't see it, that they are germinating under the soil. A human is going to wait and see the right seed and see how am I going to treat this weed. Whilst the best usage of robots that they launch the robots to weed between the seedlings rows, so that it increases the agronomic point, because it's going to deal with tackle problems before they arise. You will never have said we're going to go and weed when you don't see anything, and this is where the robot has a plus. I think your neighbors need to speak here. If you think about it, everyone can do it. Even everyone does it. The agricultural workers as well, farm laborers. But I would like to see if you're working with rotary harrows, if you go through at 1 km/h. I'm not sure it was a good example. No, without microphone we can't hear what you're saying. It's very technical, of course, and it's not that obvious. So, if you have farmers that manage to weed even if they don't see the weeds, so we can see how hard work it is. Jean-Luc, yes, very quickly. I don't know whether I have my point here, but I want to advocate for Flavien's work. If I understood well, sometimes I don't get things right, but imagine a ship. You have to have people who are making it go forward very hard, or an engine that makes the ship go. It's not. You don't want rowers to have the ship moving. If you have a spade, does it take work away from people? I have two questions. First of all, with all the companies that are really working on agricultural robotics, all the companies who are focusing that, we're really in the industrialization of agriculture. So people have capitals, have money. Well done, they're going to buy robots. Dad maybe will buy you but the guy who cannot cannot afford a robot, how is he going to manage? And you speak about production optimization, well done. But what about the other one? Is going to really die of hunger? Then second question, I am a researcher, I do agricultural robotics, so I know what robots are. But we could create robots to say to farmers, oh great, we have these robots, so it does, or this Superman, Batman, great. But the average farmers, the average farmer in the world, what do you want, Jean-Baptiste? What do you want? That's the idea. So, okay, we say, yeah, I like to have a robot which does everything. I love it. I'm a robot designer. So what does my father, what does he want? He doesn't like pruning vines. Because people who are designing robots, they speak to the average of farmers, not just people who have these robotic fantasies. We need to work together. We have also a Federation of CUMA fair. It is organized by them in September. Was at the FAO to present a robot, because it was a global conference on mechanization. It had other suppliers and producers of precision agriculture. Many countries came and they thought it was fantastic. They said, oh, well, we could never sell that in our country. And I said, what is the average surface in India or Bangladesh also? And I said, the main point is not to buy the robot or to lease it, is to have a community around the robot that will be a tool assisting your daily work. It's not going to accomplish miracles. It's going to carry on a task that will be really the most mundane and the most difficult for users, rather than doing mechanical weeding to reduce the use of chemical products. So if you speak of decarbonated farming, you have that with the systems to really, you can save 62 tons of carbons and and then it can have a value for really farmers that will use a robot in a collective way, sharing the cost. Then Jean-Baptiste will answer the question of what do you want. So speak about these rotary harrows and harrows. When you can go through the field for mechanical weeding in the winters from 3 to 5 only, in the afternoon, 3 p.m. So it's not just simple as that. It depends on the work and the task you have to accomplish. And all robots are not really helping farms. But there's a real added value. Having said that, if you have a robot of 200,000, just forget about it. It will never happen in France. We need to have a family. We have family agriculture. We want to keep this family agriculture here in France. What do you want? I want to live well. I disagree. I think that robot can be here. Many agricultural lands are in the hands of very powerful groups, and they can decide that finally farm laborers or farmers do not need them anymore, and they go through robots directly. What I want, I would like to have an ecosystem that I really love. It's farmers, and we are an ecosystem per se, and I would like us to be preserved. And it all happens, it depends on the size of the structure and how we organize our farming. So it's the same for all investments. We speak about agriculture here, but it is a synergy for agro-equipment. It is, if you want to hyper-specialize things, we're going to do things with less people. We deal with the issue in a technical way. So agricultural prices do not increase, and to produce more, we increase the farming production system. But I think this system completely forgets about human and our capability as human to think and to act collectively. And I think it's more like a political question. What model do we want for the future? Once we would have answered this question, then we can say whether there's room for robots or not. I know that Jean-Luc is very sensitive to what you're saying. So I would be very curious, as you're a robot designer, how do you see matching between what Jean-Baptiste said and the design of your robot and your vision of robotics? I'm trying to understand here. We are making the agricultural robots like policy decision. The robot in the industry, do you remember the robot was writing Picasso in the 80s, 90s on the Renault car, and that's not the reason why the industry went completely crazy. It's all political here. The robot is a tool. That is it. And for small farms, it can really help. I want to keep this farming for small family farming. It's not a super productive. Not necessarily. I have the feeling that when smartphones got there, they said the farmers don't use smartphones because I need to live in my field and not to be annoyed by waves. Then you go to emergency, they're going to ask you your NHS card to be reimbursed, and they ask you for your number. Your smartphone number, your mobile number immediately. The real subject is the room for policy in politics in the normal sense of the term. Just sorry, I need to say that. I'm wondering when I will get home, how would I have done this in my future years, 2000 something, that I hope I will see and live through, when we're going to blockade the A64 with future robots of 1.5 tons. So we can't blockade the motorway as we did. Maybe we wouldn't have needed to blockade the. David Relicio, I'm agronomist and researcher. We spoke about Sarasengla, we spoke about conservation, agriculture, adaptation of tools to needs and practices. Now, what about equipment? We can arrange them. Can we arrange robots, or are we lacking control and mastering the knowledge? Are they an open source for robots? Are they open source? Well, see the co-founder, they say this is for you. A tricky question. At a software level, we have some open source basis. Now I'm just talking about mechanics. They have lots of customization. Are they repairable? I would say you have hose robots where the farmers have arranged things around it. They haven't modified. No, they have added things. Yes, absolutely. That was my second thought. Today, when I see students who are working after their A-level after 2 or 3 years, and they can repair and relaunch the robots and change parts, it's not really that difficult. It's more complicated to repair your own car, Galaxy smartphone, than to repair robots. It's more difficult. For robots, it's quite easy. So robots are really. We have farmers who have created their own tools. A blade, for example. It's like a U-shaped blade with inclinated, and then it does pick up onions. So to pick onions, it's less difficult, not so much effort. Then you carry on with your onions with a robot and the hose. You can put a box on it. Then for big robots, you have the Ministry of Forestry in Poland, which bought an Oreo. Oreo is the big robot. It's a big carrier for big crops, 2 meters width, 4 meters length. And you have 12 steps on the and 12 steps are carried out by the robot, backing, preparation of soil for the seedlings, then mechanical weeding. And they have embedded half of the tools, and it's Soviet time tools, and it works very well. They are interoperable, absolutely. They have a common tractor, and any user can say, okay, I'm going to take this bar, and I'm going to put this iron piece with this combination to weed. They can. So what we're listening to is a strategy. Also for design, robot designers, it's ultra specialized that is completely locked, or a tool carrier that will be more versatile. Jean-Baptiste, this question of repairability and adaptability of the machine to the farm is a key criteria, isn't it, for CUMA, which is a focus you have. I don't know, because we are farmers, breeders, accountants, also mechanicals, electrical people, also we are builders. We do it for €5 per hour. Honestly, I don't know. I think that even for maintaining tools, today tools with electronics and hydraulic systems that are really state-of-the-art, we're not repairing ourselves, of course not. We're coming to the conclusion of this conference. We can go a bit beyond. So I will ask you to put questions. But I will add maybe you can start concluding. Jean-Baptiste, what is your conclusion? What I remember, what I can, I'm wrapping up saying that I believe in human agriculture rather than robots agriculture, and that is my decision. How do you wrap up, Jean-Luc? Can you imagine human with machines? Yes, I think we can, with or without robots. We can have a life with a screen or without a screen, but you need your life well and live your life well, and to choose whether you need a screen or not. The same for robots. I would say the same. I think that was a very nice debate, very nourished and very rich. And from the room's reaction, I can see they have many challenges that are at stake. And I think that robotics is really at the heart of certain focus, with many challenges once again, and many preconceived ideas. And one might wonder whether maybe you have other topics that could be given as much attention. If there is focus and attention, it's because there's questions around, and society is discussing people, scientific people, citizens, farmers, journalists. They're all questioning the whole thing, and therefore you need to have the right answers. So you're talking about a virtuous point of controversy. Yes, so you need to go forward. Frédéric, do you think there is a challenge for skills building? Yes, there's a challenge to have hope in agriculture. And we speak a lot about robotics, but there are other tension issues, talk about water, talk about soil and chemical products. So we need to have a system that will integrate solutions. You can see it in territories. People who are going to, in territories, in lands, are going to earn their lives. And the robots there, it's just a tool. It's not an end objective. There are questions of topics of economic models, which are going to integrate all these topics for also hardware. It's a robot or a tractor that costs 300,000. And it has to create value all along. And also answer its objectives. There's also the room for where is Europe? What is the role of Europe, European Union? Yes, that's what I mean. When you see how it is being developed in the world, we're trying to reduce phytosanitary products, chemical products, and it's not necessarily the case in other areas of the world. So we need to have room for this as well, and it is a tool, and that is, let's not put all robots in the same basket. Also, that's what I remember for you. Thank you very much for your attention. Thanks to all four of you, and have a wonderful fair, and all the questions you might have, and all integration, please have them with constructors and builders. I'm sure they will grow out of it. Thank you so much.